the summer air. Cherry red leather got the classic gleam. Greased hair back, we're living the dream. Dashboard lights reflecting off her eyes. Under the stars, feeling so alive. Living up race till the moon glows bright. Tires squeal, cheating on the edge of night. My girl laughing, this is our time. Heartbeat fast in this drag race ride. Hail, hamburgers, milkshakes, jukebox blues. Electric guitar playing lost in the cues. A harmonica wailing, breaking the silence. Love and speed and perfect alliance. Hail, cherry red leather got the classic gleam. Greased hair back, we're living the dream. Cherry red leather got the classic gleam. Neon lights blazing in the dream. Cherry red leather got that classic gleam. Greased hair back, we're living the dream. Cherry red leather got the classic gleam. Neon lights blazing in the dream. Rivet up, race till the moon glows bright. Tires squeal, cheating on the edge of night. My girl laughing, this is our time. Heartbeat fast in this drag race ride. Electric guitar playing lost in the cue. A harmonica wailing, breaking the silence. Love and speed and perfect alliance. On the perfectly fast in this drag race ride.
Cloud numbers buzzing, neon light. My girl by my side feels right. Hot rods roaring, engines tight. Saturday night, shining bright. Roll through the diner real slow. Grease on our jean shoes glow. Hamburgers and shakes to go. V8 dreams, rhythm flow. Saturday night, drag queen race. Tires screeching, twisting space. Wind roars across our face. Boundless speed, hearts embrace. Chromed out bumpers glisten bright. Street lights shadowed blues at night. Radios rocking, stars in sight. Gonna win this fight tonight. Rolled out bumpers glisten bright. Street lights, shadows, blues at night. Radios rocking, stars in sight. Gonna win this fight tonight. Roll to the diner real slow. Grease on our jean shoes glow. Hamburgers and shakes to go. V8 dreams, rhythm flow. Saturday night, drag we race. Tires screeching, twisting space. Wind roars across our face. Boundless speed, hearts embrace. Boundless speed, hearts embrace. On the blacktop road, Asian nights we pray for more. Driving lights and the jukebox tune. Popped up cars under a crescent moon. My girl in the front seat winks. Cotton candy and sweet soda drinks. Hot rods parked in a crooked line. Gasoline creams running out of time. Saturday nights a flame that won't die. Gas pedal down, don't ask why. Engines rumble in a steel fight. Clouds of smoke, we meet the night. Big hair filled with rock and blues. Final spins, we ain't got no rules. Drag race dreams, long straight road. Light flashes, thunder low. Oh, my girl in the front seat winks. Cotton candy and sweet soda drink. My girl in the front seat winks. Hopped up cars under crescent moon. My girl in the front seat winks. Cotton candy and sweet soda drink. My girl in the front seat winks. Hot
Locked up cars under a crescent. Sweet soda drinks, cotton candy and sweet soda drinks, hopped up cars under crescent moon. My girl in the front seat winks, cotton candy and sweet soda drinks, cotton candy and sweet soda drinks, hopped up cars under now the time. Saturday nights a flame that won't die, gas pedal down, don't ask why. Engines rumble in a steel fire, clouds of smoke we meet the night. Thick air filled with rock and booze, bottle spins, we ain't got no rules. Drag race dreams, long straight road, clouds of smoke, we meet the night. Thick air filled with rock and blues, bottle spins, we ain't got no rules. Drag race spins, we ain't got no rules. Drag race spins, we ain't got no rules. Drag race dreams, long straight road, like clouds of smoke, we meet the night. Each a wild beast, my girl's laughter never ceased. Flashing lights, bird speed abound, cheering crowd makes a roaring sound. Harmonica screams in the night sky, guitars twang, giving it a try. Drumming hearts under sparkling air, we live fast without a care.
Neon skies, my girl by my side with those dreamy eyes, driving flicks and popcorn flies, moonlight beams on a secret tie. Hot rod engines, they scream and roar, rubber burns on that asphalt floor. Holding tight, she wants more, speed and love forevermore. Saturday nights, the world feels small, the night until last call. Love and danger, hear the engines call, spinning wheels until the fall. Hamburgers, fries, and cherry pies, sunset paints our own skies. Radio tunes and whispered lies, warm embrace where our love lies. Racing hearts under the stars, dreams of highways and guitars. Life's a highway, no end in sight. Oh, baby, it's a wild ride. Tires screech in the cool night air, young and restless without a care. Drag strip winners, life's unfair, kissing her under the moon's glare.
Distract and divert, beguile and subvert, be playful or flirt. I always promise the press I got dirt, keeps my enemies alert, chaos my dessert. When I see lots of news on Epstein, a me stopping teens, stories on my ween, I get up on the roof where I can be seen on a million screens just to make a big scene. I'm the diddler on the roof, erasing all the proof. You say it's uncouth, I swear say I'm on the Epstein list, I'll always insist it may or may not exist. I'll just name the Clintons, they're always pissed. Obama in a pinch, or Joe Biden, he's not missed. They claim I covered up all of my tracks, my flights there and back, the parties in his flack, our fights over minors, the girls and their attacks, or bites on their back, but the proof they do lack. I'm the diddler on the roof, erasing all the proof. the sky, 1,000 alibis, and you ask me about the Epstein files. Never heard of him, I lied, never knew the guy. But keep in mind, it's all part of my big plan. Distract while I can, like a showbiz man, with a Bible in my hand and a spray on tan. I'll gaslight the land like only I can. I'm the diddler on the roof. I'm the diddler, still dancing, still aloof. And here's my spoon. I deny it all. Now that's my
I really hate that sad loser, Mr. Newberger.
Who, me?
And I just answered him I just kind of hit him back with it. And I just turned around at me with this huge grin on his face. And I was like, okay, we're going to be fine. Every kid does that, right? Like, I mean, I literally did bang on pots and pans and coffee tins and things like that. But, and then at a certain point, I got a cute little drum kit, you know, basically a toy drum kit, but it had real heads on it and stuff. There's a picture on it I could probably find, but you could also might be able to find it on my page. But it's me when I'm about, I don't know, 6 or something, playing this little drum kit. And that was just messing around, having fun. But then a few years later, I got a real actual drum kit for Christmas. Like my dad was a drummer. Mm-hmm. And so there were drums around, but I really, up to that point, wasn't doing a lot of playing, other than I'm sure when I was very small, they probably set me up on his drum stool at some point when we were still living in Austin or somewhere, you know. And when I was about 5, we moved out to Dripping Springs, which is, you know, about 30 miles, where we were about 30 miles west of Austin, and kind of grew up out there. And I'm trying to think how old I was, but I remember of course, I remember getting my first real drum kit. And for a period of time, I had I don't know if it was before or after, I had this one little kind of vintage Ludwig. It was just a tom and a kick. And I would put it up, you know, with some cymbals next to the stereo and try to play along with records. But I got a kit for Christmas. At that time, it was a Tama, probably a Swing Star or something like that at the time. And I played with those, set them up, played with all my records and cassettes. And, you know, I was probably in 6th grade when I just really, that's the first time I really remember thinking, I just really want to play drums, you know, and I want to go home and play my drums. And once in a while I would figure something out, and I went, oh, so you can go between this one and that one, and that's how that noise gets made, you know?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it was really kind of you know, it wasn't a thing I just did forever. But then once I started it, I thought about it a lot. And then when, you know, 6th grade, you get to start band in school. So I did that, and I was in the percussion section. So from like 6th to 8th grade, you know, I was doing that as much as I could and learning that. And I kind of almost wish I had stuck with it, because I could probably read music better in 7th grade than I can right now, you know. But
yeah.
Because I kind of, at a certain point, I just quit doing that, and I started trying to play with people, which is great. I think that's a huge thing, you know. But at the time in high school, it's like, well, I wanted to play the kind of music I wanted to play, and I didn't really want to march. And I also played some sports. And for me, it was kind of like, well, I can't do this and be in the band. So I chose to play what I wanted at home and play volleyball and basketball, and you know, and I tried to take a few lessons. I took a few piano lessons and a few, I don't know, maybe a couple of guitar lessons, and nothing stuck. You know, it's not easy. None of it's easy. So I wish I'd stuck more with it, but I'm glad I learned what I did, you know, and then I just sort of started. It's funny because, you know, my dad was a drummer and we used to go hear music a lot, but we very rarely sat down and, you know, he only showed me things a couple of times, you know. We didn't really work. It wasn't like lessons from him, but I did watch him play a lot. And you know, a couple of times he'd show me one thing or another, and I was lucky in that way. But I used to just always say, you know, it was the only thing that came easy enough for me to stick with it, you know. And I wish now that I had studied a bit more, because, you know, it's a lot harder to kind of get over certain walls if you don't have certain skills. But I was always into the music that, you know, at the time I thought, oh, well, these guys are all, you know, self-taught and they're not reading music, they're playing in clubs and they're making these cool blues records or whatever. And, you know, again, I'm not saying I was smart.
Oh no, I totally
or that I
get
knew
where you're
everything, but that
from.
was, I didn't want to play what I thought of as kind of schooled music. I wanted to play what I thought of as rock and gut bucket kind of feel music, you know.
Right.
Now I know now that, of course, you know, there's nearly no knowledge is going to hurt you. But at the same time, you know, that's what I thought I wanted to be like. So go figure. But so, yeah, I started playing and always did it in some kind of capacity. But once I got into high school, I was playing more at home and playing with my records. And occasionally I would be playing percussion with my dad's bands. And then at some point I started trying to find friends my own age and play the kind of music I wanted to try to play. And, you know, just started doing that whenever I could. And luckily I met some other people finally that were into the stuff I was getting real hard into. For instance, my friends in the rockabilly band High Noon, Kevin Smith, Sean Young, and Sean Mincher had formed in Austin. And they were great friends of mine. And I would go to their gigs all the time. And then they would let me get up and play snare drum with them. And I felt like I was kind of like the honorary drummer allowed to play with High Noon, you know, because they were great and they were real authentic sounding and you know, it was a lot of fun. But it was a good way to get into the stuff I wanted to get into with people that were my age and kind of had the same take on it, you know?
Yeah, totally. I can't say enough good things about Sean Mincher, Sean Young, and Kevin Smith. I mean, one of the reasons I play the upright bass is because of Kevin Smith. And he was inspirational. He set a real standard for a lot of the kind of modern roots music that was going on at the time, you know. Oh, I mean, between work with High Noon and the Spankers, and, you know, I mean, now he's playing with Willie and stuff.
Now he plays Willie Nelson.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
There you go.
I mean, you want to talk about climbing that pinnacle? Good luck.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Yeah, no, but yeah, I was lucky because those guys had moved to Texas and we were all around the same age and we were all kind of hopped up on the same kind of music and discovering a lot of the same great music. And we were all kind of coming at it from different angles, but we were all kind of looking for something in that vein, you know, and that roots music, rockabilly, rock and roll, blues, eventually hillbilly and country stuff, you know, that whole infusion of things. And I think we all agreed at the time that we weren't hearing that performed, you know, with the feel that we liked, the modern band, so to speak. Even if they were sort of doing that kind of stuff, they weren't doing it in that way. And that's what we wanted to do, you know.
Well, y'all were playing during what I consider just the glory days of modern rockabilly, you know, in the 90s with High Noon and obviously, you know, Deke and Big Sandy and you know, when
I felt that way at the time. I mean, certainly to me those were the other two, you know, Big Sandy and Deke or Dave and Deke, you know, at the time.
Yeah.
Now there were other, you know, I learned much later about other bands that were going on at different times. And of course, when I was, you know, earlier than that, I was aware of some bands like the Blasters or the Stray Cats or something. But yeah, as far as like what we were trying to do and what was happening in that scene at the time, I felt like those guys were top of the heap, you know. and I really respected him musically, and certainly Chris Sprague and Bobby Trumbull were two of my favorite drummers that were happening at the time, and so I felt real happy about being in some of that company,
I mean, Rosie Flores was killing it. Kim Lenz was killing
Absolutely.
it. Absolutely.
Kim Lenz, and
there was this
and
magic.
then we had, coming along not too much after that was, guys like Nick Curran.
Right,
and, Nick played in Ronnie Dawson's band. He played in Kim Lenz's band before he really just started tearing it up on his own. And that was cool.
I accidentally got to see Nick playing with Kim Lenz when I was visiting some friends in California, and they just happened to be on tour in Oakland. And then, funny enough, I ended up playing that venue later on with Wayne Hancock. And
yeah.
and last time that I really got to see Nick, I was playing with Ruby Dee and Jorge. And
sure,
we opened for Nick and got to see him. And
right on.
Yeah, it was. He was a legend. He was a legend.
He is very, just really, really talented. Gone way, way, way too soon,
And a nice guy.
Nice guy, very nice guy. I met him when he was so young. I think Sean Mencher might have been one of the people to recommend him. He'd already been doing stuff up where he came from in his own bands, and I think maybe with his dad. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been Mencher who was like, you should meet this young man, and he ended up bringing him down. And I think I got to do the first tour that Nick did with Ronnie with him,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It was cool. Yeah, he was pretty young, like maybe late teens, maybe. I think.
Getting to work with Ronnie, I can only imagine some of the stories that you heard. When I got to hang out with Dickie, I got to hear some of his Gene stories. And, they're just, little comic bits that you never really get to hear, that only people were there.
Yeah.
I imagine that Ronnie was just full of them.
Well, he was. He was. Yeah, he was. And I didn't even at this point now, I wish I'd asked him more things, but he told us some pretty funny stories. Just, he sort of touched on so many aspects of, that kind of music that, just from being a young kid, and then ended up playing in the Light Crust Doughboys, which, with Smokey Montgomery, and being like, okay, well, let's get Ronnie in here and he'll be like the teen sensation who's playing along with this Western swing band, But that was awesome, And then so he did that, and he did his own thing, and he put his rock and roll singles out under his various names, and he was still just a teenager, and he made these killer records, And then later on, and he would tell us stuff, stories of being on Town Hall Party or being playing the Sportatorium in Dallas, and he would talk about, Tex Ritter would introduce these guys like this, or, DBL, well, here, now we have Larry and Laurie, the Collins kids. And he would just do his impression of Tex Ritter and, just the people that were nice to him and the people that were maybe not so nice to him. And then, just the whole, I don't want to just go off on Ronnie, although I'd be happy to if you want. But gosh, the guy did a little bit of almost everything you can think of in the music business. They wanted to make a teen sensation out of him, and he was going to have these big things coming out. And then the big payola scandal hit with Dick Clark and all that stuff. And, those aren't my favorite of his records, but he's just such a screamingly talented kid, young man, playing, singing. And then later, he was in the Levy Singers, which was kind of a folk band that was super, super popular. And he ran nightclubs, and he had like a country rock band as well called Steel Rail. And later on, I believe it was Barney Kumis from England who came knocking on his door saying, "Are you Ronnie Dawson of Rockin' Bones and Action Packed and these records?" He says, "Yeah, that's me." He's like, "Well, you want to make some records?" And he's like, "Yeah." As he proceeded to go to England and make some of the best modern rock and roll records, in my opinion, that certainly were happening. And then just had like this whole second career where he was just amazing and made these great records. And me, among others, got to do touring and playing with him. And it was just, he was so much beyond a lot of guys who were good, but maybe had one or two singles they did in the 50s and seemed like they didn't even really quite understand what they were doing then, you know? So you try to get them to do a show and they weren't always just really all there. But Ronnie was all there. A few other guys were really still there, but Ronnie was not only there, but putting out really cool new material and stuff, you know?
Yeah, still being able to hit all the arrangements and everything too.
Oh, yeah, and come up with them and then go
Fantastic.
Out and rock solidly for 2 straight hours, you know? I seen him pour sweat out of his creepers, you know, out of his shoes, you know, and at the end of a show because he brought it, you know, and not in a goofy fun. He was hilarious, but at the same time, but the music wasn't goofy, you know, he was having fun and making crazy faces and noises and stuff, but you know, he wasn't a joke or a necessarily really even a retro artist, in my opinion. It was just good music, good rock and roll, you know?
I mean, and having y'all there behind him was just, it was just always
we were very enthusiastic about it. That's for sure, you know?
Yeah, I'm quite sure. I know that you've been playing with Dave for quite some time. How'd that happen?
Well, that happened because you're talking about Dave Alvin.
Yeah.
Actually, who I'm fixing to go back out with, and which, by the way, yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about that a minute ago. We were talking about I saw the Blasters on TV on that TV show called Fridays when I was still in probably, I don't know, I want to say junior high or something like that. And I just thought, wow, this exists out there somewhere, you know? And it was kind of funny too, because the other band that was kind of a big part of that world for me, was the Paladins, and now one of my very best friends is married to Dave Gonzalez from the Paladins, and we all kind of live in the area. It's kind of funny to me how things circle around sometimes, but in any case, yeah, what happened at that time was, and I believe this was probably around 2009-ish, and I had. Well, my good friend Sarah Brown, who's an amazingly excellent bass player, and she called me to say, hey, Dave Alvin wants to put together a whole different kind of show for this show at Hardly Strictly Bluegrass, which is a festival that happens in San Francisco. And it was happening, you know, everything got interrupted a couple of years ago, but, you know, it was happening for many years. And it's an amazing festival that was, I believe, started by Warren Hellman. And I had heard about it for a long time, but I'd never played it with anyone. And it's cool because it's in Golden Gate Park and it's free to the public. And I mean, there's 5 or 6 stages of just massive talent, you know. It's a great festival. But in any case, Sarah called to say, hey, Dave wants to do a set with a lot of women musicians that he respects and knows. And you know, this is a situation, you know, and he wanted me to get in touch with you about doing it. At that point, I had briefly met Dave because he was producing a band called the Derailers, which I was in for a period of time. And I did a little recording with him, but we didn't really know each other. We didn't even really spend that much time together while we were working on the record. But so years later, Sarah was like, well, Dave wants to put this show together. And, you know, would you be into it? I'm like, yeah, I'd be super into it. But it just worked out because I was able to fly out, and my husband was playing, I believe, on the same festival with Jerry Jeff Walker. And I said, well, okay, cool. I can share his hotel room, because it was sort of like at that time, it wasn't like they could just fly anybody they wanted in from around the world, and there was all the money in the world to do it. You know, we were just like, well, we really want to make this happen, so let's see if we can work it out. So it just so happened that Brad was going to be out there anyway, and 2 of the people that he wanted to play were Sarah on the bass, of course, my friend Cindy Cash Dollar on the flat steel.
She's just killer, and
she's amazing, and also Amy Ferris, who was a fellow Austinite, but she was living in LA at the time, fiddle and violin player, and a girl that. I wish I'd known better, but she and I were friends. And so I was like, oh, well, that'd be great. And so he also had Lori Lewis, who I hadn't met until that point, Nina Gerber, who I hadn't met until that point, Christy McWilson, and another lady whose name I'm going to lose, but she's an awesome, accordion, like Cajun accordion kind of player.
Oh, cool.
I really want to apologize, but she's on the Guilty Women record. Anyway, so Dave's band forever was called the Guilty Men, and his best friend Chris Gaffney had just passed away, and Dave was really feeling the need to to shake it up and do something very different to kind of, get out of his malaise and kind of mourning over with Chris, and so he decided he wanted to get a lot of the women musicians. He always tries to bring something different. He was playing Hardly Strictly every year at that point. So he would always try to bring a little something different. So that was his idea for that year. And so we flew out. We literally just met. We all met, got together in a tent behind the stage for 20 minutes before we went up on there and played in front of thousands of people. And I was pretty terrified. I mean, in a lot. I mean, not to the point where I couldn't go up, but I'm like, here's the funny thing was, I mean, I knew some of Dave's stuff. I knew more of the Blaster stuff. And, but Dave had made a bunch of amazing albums. But when you're knee deep in whatever's in front of you, you're not always hearing everything. So I didn't have my head around all of Dave's songs, and not to mention ones that I realized later on are kind of modern classics. And at the very least, huge songs to his fans, And so we got up there and we were just playing, and I just thought, hey, I thought to myself, I got to relax. I mean, I missed a couple little things because I was just trying to get these songs under my belt, in my mind. And I just said, you know what, this isn't going to work. I can't play this whole thing uptight. I don't know all these songs, but I know how to play. And so we started playing, and Dave did some kind of a lick, and I just answered him I just kind of hit him back with it. And I just turned around to me with this huge grin on his face. And I was like, okay, we're going to be fine. He's out here having fun. And I was a little intimidated because, I'm telling you what, that was a whole load of musicianship on that stage with, at that moment. And anyway, the set went over really well. We had a great time. And Dave's record label was like, hey, that was really cool. You guys should do a record. And so we went, yeah, that would be great. So we did. We cut the record in Austin and put it out and toured for a couple of years on that. And then we were like, hey, that was wonderful. And, we all kind of went about our business. And a little while later, Dave's manager called to see if my husband and I would be interested in touring with him, because he was just about to put out his album 1111. And we weren't on that album, but Brad had met him years ago. He, I don't want to go off too far on this, but, Brad has played with many, many people. At the time, he was playing with Kelly Willis and several people a long, long time ago. So he knew Dave from, playing out at the Palomino and stuff like that. And Dave told us that he had come out to a little gig we were doing in Austin at Jenny's Little Longhorn, and seeing Brad and I playing together, and thought, yeah, that could work. And so called us up to see if we maybe come out as his rhythm section for this 1111 tour, which we did. And we've basically been playing in his band ever since.
That's
and it's been really fantastic. It's been a real treasure to me, honestly, to get to do that.
There's nothing quite like finding that symbiotic relationship. Between. I
feel very fortunate. Yeah. I mean, they're very different people, but for me personally, having that experience with Ronnie and having this more recent experience with Dave in two different ways. They're very different artists, but they're both coming from a real heavy duty roots. They're deep in their roots and their influences, and also what they bring to the table, and the fact that they like people to be very, very present on stage. There's nothing by rote. You got to be paying attention all the time, and let's see what we can make happen. And it's fun,
Being able to stay on your toes like that every night, but still also having, the structure of a set list. That combination cannot be beat. Just calling the songs.
I agree.
That can be absolutely frustrating because, as you and I both know of people that, we've done work for people, you're expected to know the material and know it well, but you can only memorize so many things. But if you're given an order in which to do it, it's so much easier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, that's the fun part, is you've got that. If you get the benefit of that, then you have that skeleton that you can hang all the fun stuff on. The skeleton is strong. You know the songs, for the most part, how they go and what's supposed to happen. And then that gives you room. I think that part of it is, at least personally for me, I enjoy that in any context. But Dave and Ronnie are both lead guitar players, so they want to jam a little bit, and they know how to lead a band because they know how the progressions are supposed to go. And so that once you within that, they can not only lead you, but you can explore together a little bit, and it's fun,
Do you think that playing those early, I guess, root songs when you were first learning to play kind of got you used to just how the arrangements for blues, country, and rockabilly kind of go?
Yeah.
Because I know
think
that
so.
when I've seen you play, and especially the rockabilly stuff, and you do those snare rolls that come out on the the traditional rockabilly ones, at that time, I was just like, she just has it so much.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, some of that stuff is sort of like that. I mean, to be honest, once you hear maybe James Van Eaton on a Jerry Lee Lewis record, you go, oh, you can roll over a bar and that's okay.
Yeah.
And it actually sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Well, then you're like, okay, all right. But you can only do that if you're playing with a strong enough group of people who, will know how to have fun within the boundaries. That way you can stretch the boundaries just enough. And we're not talking about necessarily free jazz here, but we are talking about having fun in a rock and roll context,
It's not free
and certainly,
form jazz,
played a lot of
obviously.
country and a lot of blues and a lot of stuff. When you know the basic structure and groove, you can hear all the little subtleties that are going on within it, and you could also maybe step into a gig. It's funny, you think it's simple until you have to do it, and it's like when you play a gig with somebody who's basically patronizing one of those kind of styles, then you go, oh, well, you don't like this. You're just kind of tolerating it or making fun of it, and you're no fun, I mean, people that don't really understand country or blues or whatever, they think, that's easy, that's nothing. It's like, well, there's a lot of really great music you just aren't quite up on yet, maybe, or something like that. But anyways, it is fun. And yes, you're right. Having a general knowledge of the way those things are generally structurally, that stuff. It's part of your backbone. It's part of your DNA, and that way, you're able to kind of move around in it and not be just thrown off. If something's out of whack, or it helps you lock in. We all kind of have a similar. We know how it goes. I mean, I'm. Of all things, my dad played a lot of music. He was a drummer since he was in junior high, like a working drummer in South Austin, playing blues clubs, playing swing gigs, playing all kinds of stuff. And he was a huge blues fan and stuff. But at a certain point, I was growing up, and he got super, super, super into reggae. And so I got into reggae at the time, and I would play in his bands playing percussion. He just passed away last September, but he had really become like a really solid stylist, like really cool. He could play those grooves and be creative within them and in a way that I never could. But at the same time, it's just sort of a thing where, people that don't get it or don't like it, they think it all sounds the same, but when you do like it, you hear all the cool subtleties and stuff within those grooves, country grooves, reggae grooves, rock grooves, blues grooves, all that stuff. So it's certainly groove music. I mean, I finally was just like, hey, don't work so hard to avoid the backbeat, lay into it, think about your favorite records, you can really you get into that stuff and get into it,
I was thinking that when you mentioned reggae drumming, those ghost notes that are on the hi-hat that really, really, they just have that, I suppose, that secret sauce that really gives reggae drumming its flair. But then when you think about it, that exact kind of stick control with those ghost notes is exactly what you find inside of a good country shuffle too.
You sure can. That's right. Yeah. And it's funny too, because, the further back you go, the more you can hear, and you can hear where reggae coming from ska, and you can hear ska picking up on swing and pop, and even some country vibes and feels and things like that. And for sure, that's correct. You listen to some of those early ska records and stuff, and like apparently like Jim Reeves and stuff was really popular in Jamaica. And it all got absorbed up into that stuff. And, it's just interesting. But yeah, the same thing with the other stuff where I'm like, yeah, the drummers that I was loving and coming from, well, they were inventing this new kind of music. So what were they listening to? Well, they were listening to jazz and swing and blues. And so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's some of it. The stuff I like too is certainly, it's only a hop, skip, and a jump out of swing music and jump blues and that kind of swing and jazz, which I dig, and that's what I always tried to maintain, a little bit of that vibe. And even with Dave Alvin, that's a lot heavier of a thing than I was doing before I started playing with him, a little bit more muscly blues, rock, singer-songwriter stuff, but he comes from that background, he and his brother playing with Big Joe Turner all those years, and him and the Blasters, playing with Lee Allen and the sax player. And so that stuff is always in there. So I feel like, yeah, we're all coming at it from different things. And I said, all right, well, I need to tweak a little bit of my approach to make it fit. And at the same time, he seemed to like the thing I was bringing from my perspective. So that was a blessing, that was cool. But I remember consciously thinking at the time, all right, I'm going to broaden this up just a bit, lay in just a little bit more, because it's just a little bit different style, because, his writing and the way he approaches it and stuff is just slightly different than the stuff I'd been doing before. But I took it as a challenge, and I really came to really love and respect the stuff that he does, and getting to play it with him. It's fun to play those songs. And he seemed to dig the stuff that me and Brad were bringing in as well, and we still have Chris Miller. He's the other guy in our band. He's an awesome guitar player, and he's played with Dave he had played with him long before we did. But the funny thing was that Chris and Brad and me had also played in various bands around Austin. And you mentioned Wayne. It was a period of time where Kevin Smith and I were touring with Ronnie Dawson, and Kevin was also playing with Wayne the Train, who was opening the shows, and Chris Miller was playing in Wayne's band at the time. So, that world really revolved around itself a lot for a period of time, it seems like,
Yeah, when I was in Austin, kind of the joke was either you've played with Wayne, you've played with the Spankers, or you played with Junior Brown. And that was just kind of, as a bass player, it was just kind of like, that's just the way it went. And I don't know, there was something kind of cool and something kind of charming about that. When I was in Austin, it was just so cool because one of the things that between meeting you and Guy Forsyth and Kevin and Dave Biller and just, a lot of my musical kind of inspirations, it was one thing I discovered is the better people can play, the nicer that they are. Because
yeah, I know what you mean in a way. Yeah. I actually recently had a friend move here, and he even commented that, I don't know, I think it surprised him because he had come, I don't know, I'm trying to say it without saying too much, but the gist of it being, he's a pretty relatively famous dude, and he's played with a lot of people, but he was, I think, surprised a little bit of all the different people that he starts working with around here, that we weren't all like hating each other and mad that the other guy's playing or whatever. I think he was sort of impressed with that there still can be a sense of community and sort of support, even if you're sort of, that's just, I guess, life in Austin at the moment. It's a little bit different vibe than that era that you're talking about when you were living here. And that was an amazing time, I have to say. It was really so much fun stuff going on. And like you said, a lot of, cross currents, a lot of people playing with each other, and just kind of, there's a different vibe here now. It's not all bad. It's not all, oh my God, it's dead and over. It's not by any means, but
certainly different.
It's just different. It's certainly different. And, but I still, that in some twisted way, it made me proud, when he said that, like, oh yeah, well, they all seem to sort of support each other, be happy for each other, whatever, or at least not get mad, one guy's doing this gig and then the other guy's doing the gig. It's like, well, the fact is we can't all do all of them, and so, in fact, I've subbed in. The good news is we're all still, some of us are still kicking, and like, for instance, Brad and I, my husband, we are one of the two one of several, but we're two of the rhythm section people that John Doe from X has a trio. He calls it John Doe Folk Trio.
Yeah.
And he made a record with Kevin Smith and Conrad Chacroon, which is fantastic. I really, really like it a lot. And so among other rhythm sections, we've subbed in with that and done several gigs and just had a great time. And then we've done them where you mix and match. Brad's played with Conrad, and I'm about to go out later and do some shows with Kevin and John and me. And it's like, I'm just happy to be able to, learn. If I'm learning parts, at least it's parts from my friends and players I respect, and so I think it's kind of fun that some of that stuff is still out there and people are still able to just go and do a good job. And somebody like John can be so flexible in terms of like, yeah, I'm going to get these different people and they're all good and they all are good at different things. And, obviously the spine of it is what, it's his thing and what he wants, but he's able to let people kind of breathe in and out on and their style of doing that stuff. And it's fun,
I think maybe if there was back in the day any sort of animosity just because, everybody kind of took advantage of how good they had it. But now I think if there was anything, I think that a lot of the roots musicians more are looking out for each other because, it's like an old guard almost, with all the different kinds of musicians that came to Austin searching for fame and fortune. Not a lot of people are still out there, playing Hound Dog
I think
Taylor
there was a
covers.
time, I think you're right. I think you're right about that. I also think that, there was a period of time back then where you were just kind of like, okay, it was still a little bit less sort of widely known. It was actually still a little bit weird to have a band have an upright in it, And so when we were all sort of like on that same page of like, hey, we all love this, so we're kind of all on the same team, And even if it wasn't always the same kind of music, it was kind of people are like, well, how did you ever, was it weird, being a woman or playing or whatever? And I'm like, well, of course, there were times, like anybody would face, but most of the time it wasn't that way because I was playing with my friends and all of us were trying to do something. Well, I was one of only a certain number of drummers in Austin who could play that style of music the way they wanted to hear it and the way it felt good to play together. So I think they were more concerned with having the music feel right than whether they had, a woman or like a metal guy on drums or whatever,
Yeah, it doesn't matter who's behind the kit as long as everyone's dancing.
Yeah, as long as it feels good. And so there was an element of that of us all. Like, it wasn't like we were all playing the same thing. It was just that we all knew this was a part of something it was a bigger picture that we were all appreciating being a part of,
One of the things I've been able to talk with people about since I've been doing this podcast that's been really interesting is during COVID when, all of us, we were playing, we were gigging, we were touring, everything was golden. And all of a sudden it was like, nope, no more.
Yeah, that was a weird sensation, just having that all just snuffed out.
It really was. And, you're amazed that venues are even still open for you to play. But I was just curious, during that time, was there any other artistic mediums that you found yourself drawn to?
Oh, that's a great question. And the short answer is, for me personally, not so much. And mostly that was because I had been spending the last couple of years touring as much as I could, but kind of sort of balancing a lot of issues that were going on at home, like I had some ill relatives and this and that. And so for me, to be very honest, I feel very, very fortunate, because for me, it was really kind of a chance to sort of catch up on some things. I mean, I had to clean out my grandmother's house. She had passed away 7 years before, but there was no time to help my family go through the house, and so funnily enough, I could use another 2 years, but I don't wish that on the world at all. But so, I did start thinking about, it wasn't so much other artistic stuff. I mean, I've always written a little bit, so I've written a few songs and done a few things here and there. And yeah, I would have loved to explore that more. But for me, it was sort of a chance to catch up on some things. All my free time that I suddenly had kind of went into catching up on stuff that had just been having to put off for literally years, that the house being one of several. So unfortunately, I did get to catch up on some things, but it wasn't like I made a whole ton of artistic progress or discovered that I could paint or something.
Just those moments where you can actually take care of off-stage life, what I like to call it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I was super happy, touring that much with Dave, but it was really hard to be touring and trying to help run some folks, some stuff going on back home, like by remote control from the back of a van driving through frozen Illinois or something. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe you could, call 911. I can't help right now.
Yeah. I think that it gave a lot of us also kind of a chance to think about who we are off stage, because
absolutely
we spend so much time with the loading and the sound checking and the waiting and then the playing and then the loading and then you know what I mean
brother, I do. And I know
and once that's gone
what's that?
I said, and once it's gone, it's like what do you do?
Well, or even not even just literally the amount of time, which is also an aspect, but just the, wait a minute, who am I when I'm not doing that? Who's the person? Because it's almost like there comes, a point where if you're fortunate enough, you get so busy that, you can always do it. I mean, you can sit and practice at home, but it's a lot more fun to play for people, I've always thought, and, when that becomes such a huge part of your identity, it's an odd thing to have it just sort of not snuffed out, but let's say put on pause.
Yeah, just put on ice.
And I'm sure we all sort of had to go, oh, I haven't really truly had to live with myself for a while now. So who am I? Do I like me?
Yeah, I mean, so many people I've talked to, not just on the podcast, but just in general. We've all, had that talk, because it's like, we're so used to being on the go, being on the move, and then, getting...
Or constantly hustling.
Or
to try to, whether to stay busy or to pay the bills or just to try to have some musical project going on. Yeah, you get into that mode of just like, go all the time. Yeah, it's kind of a matter of survival, to be honest. But when that part of it is sort of like not there to do, you're just like, whoa, what do I do? I'm not in a frenetic, state of being.
Exactly. Like you're like, well, do I work on my child? I mean, I spent a lot of time wood shedding during COVID. So
good for you.
I was going to take advantage of that. I really was. But then after a while, excellent. It was like, I'd sure like to do this in front of people again.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And, I don't have a very good, I'm actually trying right now to bolster my practice ethic, And like I said, I didn't do a ton of it because I was really just literally physically catching up on all that other stuff. But I feel myself hitting walls, and I know what you mean. It's like, but when you've actually done what you're doing and you put that time in, you're like, all right, cool. Now, when do I get to go try to put this out in the real world,
I just put that new record out too that I'd made in my own home. I played all the instruments on it and recorded
awesome.
it. I did like everything on it, and had gigs booked and festivals, and it was like, well, so much for that. But,
and that's so frustrating because, like you said, like that's the lifestyle that we've all had for so long, where you're just trying so hard to keep something going or get something going. And when you have, and you're kind of hitting that point where it naturally feels like, okay, now's the part where it's supposed to enter the world and maybe take off. And that suddenly just gets, the rug gets pulled out. You're just like, whoa, that's a terrible feeling,
But I always say that if everything would have went like that, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. So, it all works out in the end.
Look for the positive side of things always,
Yeah. Now I'm in Germany and married to an amazing person.
Well, were you? Yeah. How long have you been in Germany? Do I get to interview you?
Oh.
When did you move over there?
I've been living here almost 2 years now. I had to go back to America for 3 months, and 3 months without her, I just wasn't handling that. And neither was she.
Brutal.
Yeah. So as soon as I came back, we went to Denmark. and we got married.
Yep.
And,
wonderful. Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much.
It's great. Yeah, but that's a big move. That's a huge change to just move to another country like that.
You know, it's been nice. It's been interesting. It's been different. I'll definitely say that, especially because, you know, I had to go through German class, and now I can speak a bit of, you know, the proper language.
That's certainly not on the list of easiest languages to learn.
No. My wife is currently learning a language that's 100 years older than Germany. So
wow.
I try.
Oh, wow.
I try to keep up. Well, so
yeah. Wow.
I know that.
Good on you. Hey, love conquers all, right?
Absolutely. I know you're doing this new record, and I can't wait to hear it.
Which one?
With Dave Alvin.
Yes. Yeah, we've been doing a bit of recording, and Dave, you know, he's been through a lot. You know, he's been through a really intense battle with cancer over the last couple of years, but he's back, able to tour and play some, and we're thrilled about it. And he sounds amazing. But the last album that we did was a collaboration with Dave and Jimmie Dale Gilmore, and that was a lot of fun. We did some touring on that, and so we did a little bit more recording with the two of them recently. We were doing some Texas dates right before we did the Texas dates. And unfortunately, we did the recording. We did one date with Dave and Jimmie, and then Jimmie got COVID. So we had to do the rest of the shows with only Dave. And God bless Jimmie, and we're going right back out with him soon. And we had a great show with him. And then, but we got to do a few of the solo dates with Dave as well. And we're like, oh yeah, we haven't done this one in a couple of years. And so that was interesting and different. But so I think that we have actually, believe it or not, it's funny, I just found out there's a digital single coming out on Friday. That's an album that we did with Dave and Jimmie Dale, a song, I mean.
Oh, killer. And
it's a really fun one. And it'll be out Friday on all of your favorite streaming sources, as they say. But yeah, but I'm excited too. The reason I said it that way is that I'm not quite sure when we're going to get the next, you know, we're sort of getting some recording in where we can. I don't have it scheduled like, okay, on this day we're going to go finish this record and it'll be out on this day. So it's sort of like a work in progress, but it sure is a lot of fun to get to do it, you know.
I'm not going to ask for any spoilers because I imagine that.
Well, Friday there's a single, so.
Actually,
it's cool.
Right now's the perfect time to go ahead and put any plugs out there that you'd like to. Any websites, any addresses?
I you know, of course, there's always davealvin.net, and I don't have a website, but I do have Instagram, and I'm on there. You can look up my name or look up Feet Beat, and I'm on Facebook. I have an artist page on there, and I also have a personal page, and there's not a ton of different content on them all because I'm using them all as sort of proxy web pages because I'm too lazy to really do my own web thing. But there's sometimes a little bit different content on all the different pages. And I'm excited because we're leaving next Tuesday for about 2.5 weeks of Dave and Jimmie dates out in California and Arizona. And there's a Dave and Jimmie single that our band is on that's going to be available this day after tomorrow. And I'm sure in conjunction with Yep Rock Records, which is what they've been putting out these last records and Dave's records for many years. And they're a fabulous, fabulous label. You know, I would love it if folks would join me on any of my pages. They're all under my name, Lisa Pankratz, except for the Instagram, which is under Feet Beat. I'm excited. I'm really, now that it's getting closer, I'm getting real excited about flying out and doing these shows again. And we've had a little bit of downtime, but there's, that's one good thing about Austin is there's always, I have a lot of great friends I sub in with, or somebody will call me and I'll do a one-off here and there. And we've got some regular things we've been doing every other week for several years with a country singer named Roger Wallace, country and roots music. And we've had a band that we've done for years with him and Brad and me, and a great guitar player named Jim Stringer. And so whenever we're home, we generally play every other Friday. And Roger's got some great country CDs out. We did quite a while ago, and I feel fortunate. Brad and I we had a record ready to go with a singer named Whitney Rose from Canada, and then that came out and they promptly shut down the world. And while it was shut down, we made another record, and then it hasn't been able to come out yet. So there's that one I look forward to seeing at some point. But right now I'm very excited about getting back out on the road with Dave and Jimmie. We got some solo Dave dates. We're going to be back at the vaunted Fitzgerald's American Music Festival in Berwyn, Illinois, which we used to do a lot, and then Dave hasn't been able to do for several years. But we're going to be back there with Dave this year, and then before and after that, we've got more touring with him and Jimmie Dale. And let me tell you what, Jimmie Dale was a revelation, and that guy he's holding up better than any of us, I think, and he's just a lot of fun to be on stage with. And he's been a fun addition to Dave and Dave's band, you know. I mean, not to say Jimmy's an amazing artist in his own right, obviously. But it was a combo I was curious about, and it turned out to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was looking at the tour dates, and I saw that you're going over to the West Coast, and especially at San Juan Capistrano. When I was playing with Wayne, we got to open for the Blasters, and I got to,
cool.
be side stage getting to watch them. And then you mentioned Berwyn, and the same thing happened. So I got to actually see the Blasters. But
they were a great band, and Phil Alvin is just a voice of nature, gift from God to American music, as far as I'm concerned. Really one of those modern missing link guys, or it's just like he's a real deal, man. It's like amazing artist and a great band.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even with my own band, I covered Dark Knight because the Blasters were amazing, and there was the Hollywood Fats era too.
Absolutely, great stuff, really great stuff.
Ooh, good lord.
And and it was sad. Just a few years ago, we just recently had a brutal ice storm, but was it 2 or 3 years ago now? We had a really bad one here, and we lost Gene Taylor.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize at the time he was in Austin. If I had, I'd have probably tried to go find him and bring him over to our place or something, because luckily we made it through. I mean, I we don't have to go off on that, but that was a real devastating, horrible loss, and one of many during that time, around here. But it just had me. He got on my mind, because you're talking about watching the Blasters play, and
right.
Goodness knows, and Gene was a fabulous piano player, and but yeah, I know what you mean. Just getting to play on bills with those guys, and then it's really not lost on me getting to play shows with Dave, and we did 2 albums with Dave and Phil, and we toured those. So Phil was singing with Dave's band as well, and that was awesome. And I've seen the Blasters with Phil many times, and that was awesome. So much fun, and yeah, it's cool. It's really great to be able to participate in some of that with some of the people you really admired and that really inspired you to, For me, I just I listened to a little bit of everything, growing up. I mean, I like a little bit of everything. I like stuff now that I didn't like when I was a kid, because I was just like, that sounds like pop crap or whatever, and I somehow just was anti everything except whatever I decided I liked, I guess. But but I know a lot better now about a lot of stuff, and of course there comes a point when, even if it's not totally your bag, you just respect the musicianship or the skill that goes into certain things or whatever. But and like you said, that thing about what I've found is that the really, really great players sometimes are the nicest guys. There's nothing in it. There's no reason for those guys to be rude to anybody. They're not going to lose any ground by someone else admiring them or being a good player, or it's just, those are the guys I really respect and admire, because you don't, sometimes that's just insecurity coming out of people when they're rude to people or rude to people that are trying to be, admirers of them or something, but yeah, it's really been a blast to get to play with Dave and tour with Dave, and then have people like his brother Phil join us for those tours. And I just am sitting there going, wow, I can't believe I'm sitting in the middle of all this right now.
Well, this is just me, but I also think that they're pretty lucky to have you.
Oh, I appreciate that very much. And it's really fun talking to you about, that's a whole time during Austin, when I'm not sure people were coming here to get rich and famous, because that didn't really happen that much. But there was a real nice, beautiful, bubbling bed of music that was always going on, and I know, playing locally, there were so many wonderful clubs that were just available and encouraging to these young bands, whether it was the Continental Club or the Black Cat or, the old school places like the Broken Spoke or, the Electric Lounge or Liberty Lunch. I saw people when I was in high school at places like Club Foot that I never really got to play, but I went and saw people there, before I was really out gigging. There was a place called Steamboat Springs before 6th Street completely went to hell, and stuff. So it was there was a lot of cool stuff out there to go see and participate in. And then, and I know that, when you're out there touring, there's certain places that you look forward to. And I think Austin was certainly one of those places that bands look forward to playing because it was such an appreciative city for music. I think that is still true. I think people still have great audiences when they tour through Austin, Yeah. Sometimes Austin can be fickle when you're from there, well, like that's just the guy he plays all the time, It's like, yeah, but oh my God.
Yeah, that was
like, or hey, that's Junior Brown, dude,
That was one of the damn shames that I would always find when I would go watch music on my time off. When I was in Austin, I would go into the Elephant Room and watch the Jazz Pharaohs because I was a huge fan of, Dave Biller and Stan Smith and Ryan Gould and just all those
absolutely,
all those amazing players and great people. And man, sometimes I'd be like, why is there not more people? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. But the other end of that is I still am happy that there's places that I mean that the complexion of the music scene has changed. I would think in every city. Now, I mean, I haven't been to New York. I can't speak for that in a long time. But there's I'm sure there's still amazing gigs to go and see. But I would imagine it's different, just like it is everywhere. But I was always happy that on a given night of the week in Austin, somebody comes to town, you could recommend 2 or 3 places to go hear some really good music and really good musicians.
Like, Continental Club or Saxon or Mean-Eyed Cat or, oh man.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And we've had a couple places coming up recently. The Far Out Lounge is one, the Sagebrush is one, the White Horse, where there's at least, and and the Hole in the Wall used to be a real heavy duty venue for people, during those days when you and I were living, earlier on, but it definitely changed, and there is a lot to gripe about. But at the same time, it makes me feel good that there are still a few venues that pop up and they survive and they thrive, and sometimes it's a little bit different format, but they're still out there and they're still booking original bands, and that's important, And Austin is still one of those places where that can happen, and I'm not sure it can everywhere. There's still other cities. I'm not saying it's the only one by any means, but I don't think there's all that many.
Well, it's also the quality of music, not just the quantity. The quality.
That's true.
Because Austin is genuinely where I can say I learned to play at the next level. I went down there as best I could, playing from all the bands I played in, and I went down there and I saw how it was done.
Right. The cool thing is you can go see it and you go, oh, okay, I want it to be at least that good.
Right.
And then maybe at the same token, those guys that might say, hey man, come on up and let's play a little bit. And then you actually get to play with whoever that is that you're sort of admiring. And you get to take that next step, and it's cool. I always try to remember that I was lucky that there was a scene happening where that stuff was encouraged. Now that's different than just showing up at somebody's gig and demanding to get on stage, because there couldn't be anything less cool than that. Nobody appreciates that. But those, if you went to some friend's gig and they'd probably get you up to play, and it was fun for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think it's fun for the audience too. But, if I ever get that opportunity, I hope I can pass that along, because certainly there was people letting me sit in with them when I was 15, and you gotta cut your teeth, and it helps.
Well, especially
you don't want to let people just up there if they don't know what they're doing and everything, but still, you got to have a way to expand your wings a little bit and see whether you can do that or not,
Well, especially when there's an up-and-coming younger generation that, I'm sure they listen to your drumming, that if they're interested in playing that kind of music, that they listen to your drumming, and I guarantee that they're stealing some things.
Well, I hope so. I stole some stuff from people too.
I think it was Joel Patterson that said, if you're too lazy to steal, you're too lazy to play.
There you go. Joel's amazing too. There's some great picking going on up there in Chicago.
Absolutely terrifying between what him and Bo Sample would do together. It's just terrifying.
Absolutely. Well, and gosh, I remember Bo when he was a teenager in San Antonio, and we knew he was going to be great, and sure enough, watch him. Just look at him now,
Yeah, I mean, good Lord. Just the two of them with Alex on the drums is just... I can watch that trio
They're
all
fabulous.
night long.
I wish I could see that more often, but, we went and found him one time on our day off, and we had gigs up there, and they were playing a barbecue place or something. And,
oh, cool.
And it was really fun to hear.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you.
It's been my pleasure as well. Thank you for asking me, and... anytime, and come back to Austin. If you're coming in, let me know.
Well, if you ever find yourself on the border of France and Germany, you'll have to give me a holler. Both you and your husband, if you ever this way.
I hope that happens. Vacation. Yeah. Absolutely. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
All right. That'll be all for today. Remember, peace, love throughout the world, and don't forget to rock and roll.